All right, let's talk about an international soccer rivalry that you might not think of right away, but trust me, it's packed with some absolutely amazing history. We're talking about the USA versus Paraguay.
So, when these two teams step on the field, who really has the upper hand? Who's got the bragging rights? That's the big question we're going to dig into. And the answer? Well, it's a lot more interesting than you might think.
And that's really the key thing to get here. This isn't a showdown you see every single year, but when it does happen, oh, it's almost always a battle. Their history isn't long, but man, is it compelling.
To really get this rivalry, we have to go back. I mean, way, way back to the very beginning, to an epic opening chapter that pretty much set the tone for everything that came after. So picture this. The year is 1930. We're in Uruguay. The world is getting ready for the first ever FIFA World Cup. Can you imagine the buzz? This is a massive moment for soccer. And right there in the mix are the national teams of the USA and Paraguay. But this game, it wasn't just another match. Something happened here that had literally never happened before. This was the moment the world saw the very first hat trick in the history of the World Cup. The final whistle blew, and it was a decisive 3-0 victory for the United States. And get this, all 3 of those goals came from just one guy, an American forward named Bert Patenaude. He basically etched his name and this rivalry right into the history books forever. So after that historic first game, things went quiet for a long, long time. I mean, we're talking decades without a match between them, mostly because they're in different soccer confederations. But then the 21st century rolled around, and bam, the rivalry was back on, with clashes on some of the biggest stages in the Americas. In this modern era, they started meeting up a bit more regularly. And what's really interesting is that it was often in these high-stakes games, like the Copa América. That's the huge South American championship, where the U.S. sometimes gets an invite to the party. And these recent games really show you that back-and-forth competitive nature I was talking about. In 2007, Paraguay got a convincing 3-1 win. But then 9 years later, in a nail-biter of a match on U.S. soil, the USA got its revenge, grinding out a 1-0 victory to advance from their group. The most recent chapter in the story was an international friendly. And, even though it was just a friendly, it was another super tight contest. The U.S. just managed to edge it out 2-1. So, after all these years, from that historic first game to all the recent nail-biters, how do the numbers really stack up? Let's finally settle that question we asked at the very beginning.
All right, here it is, the complete head-to-head record. When you look at all their senior team meetings, the USA has 5 wins, Paraguay has 2, and they've drawn twice. So, yeah, that gives the Americans a clear edge, even if it's not a massive one.
And this chart really makes it easy to see, doesn't it? You can see that advantage for the United States right there. So while the individual games themselves are often super competitive, history gives the U.S. the clear statistical edge. So there you have it, from the very first World Cup hat trick to some really tense Copa América battles. It's a rivalry that's been defined by these huge moments. Which, of course, leaves us with just one question for the future. The next time they face off, who's going to be the one to write the next chapter?